right, let's transition just a little bit here. Tell me a little bit about your equipment. You have some state of the art equipment. I want to know, could you dive in a little bit about the different weapons you guys have over there in the Whitfield camp as far as race cars?
Yeah, so you know, we didn't come from a lot of money, I guess, is like the honest way to say it. Like it may look like we have state of the art equipment, but our newest car is a 2005. So
Sure.
we're already working on, what's the math on that? 18-year-old.
Right.
That's our newest car is 17 years old, I guess. But I guess where we kind of bridge the gap a little bit is that we'll take in a car that's 16, 17, 18 years old, whatever, tear it down to the bones. We'll add whatever mounts or whatever. My dad's a welder, so we have all the resources to kind of build the car into what we want.
Cool.
Send it to powder coat, bring it back. I can do the wiring, and then we assemble the cars, and then we basically have a brand new 17-year-old car.
Right.
And that's the newest one we have is a 2005 undercover dragster. Totally redone front to back, all new parts. And that just saves us a ton of money, right? Like if we save, as opposed to buying a new race car, we just save $40,000. So that's $40,000 that we can go blow at the spring fling or whatever, because that's how fast those
I
races can
mean,
suck the money
and
away.
if somebody walks by one of your cars, that there's no way that their initial thought is gonna be, this is a 2005 model car, because you guys take it down to the bare bones, like you said. Everything is new, fresh, and they look immaculate. I mean, I got to lay eyes on them finally for the first time down in Bristol. They look amazing. And we talked about this a little bit in the past too, but I know that you have two dragsters and your old manster, so three dragsters and the
Right.
roadster. And you're always trying to make those four cars like as similar as possible. Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
So I guess where I'm going with this is, what are some of the key ingredients, or what are some of the must-haves on the list of, like, okay, what makes a Kris Whitfield car? Is there anything on that list that you know, say you bring in a different car or something, it's like, oh, it doesn't have this or this, like I got to make it the same as the other ones, and like, what's your prime race car? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Right. So I would say in the last 15 years, like I've gotten used to a lot of different pieces of equipment, like a lot of different trans brake buttons, a lot of different delay boxes. Even the starter can have a different feel on the race car. I would say that, when we bring a car in and make it our own, there's certain components that I put on the race car to um, make my routine the same. And that's my biggest thing is to make my routine the same no matter what car I'm in and no matter what style of racing we're doing. So I can go from any of the four cars that we have, and I activate my starting line enhancer the same way. I've got the same trans brake button in it. My bump up and bump down buttons are in the same spots. We've got Pro Cubes in almost all the cars now, so I can almost close my eyes and operate the delay box because that thing's so simple. And then I've got the same switch panel in all the cars. Like it's all the same. That way, when I'm on the starting line in a normal race, I don't have to think about anything because it's all the same. Like
Right.
it's the same routine that I do in every single car over and over and over. So it's just second nature to, flip this switch to do this or hit this button to do this. And it's all the same in every single car. So whether I'm in the super gas car, that routine is almost identical to being in the dragster racing super pro. So that's my biggest thing is just make sure that the routine is all the same. That way I don't have to think about anything, because there's enough to think about already. I don't want to switch seats in cars and have to think, okay, in this car I have to hit this button to do this.
Right.
And especially like the extreme example is at Vandermeer Speedway for our showcase races. I'll race three classes in one night, and I've got the Roadster and Super Gas. I've got one Dragster and Super Comp, and then I've got another dragster in our Fast 16, like Super Pro top bulb dragster class. And like we'll go round and round and round, hot lapping three different cars. And I don't have to think about any. All I have to think about is what dial I want to put on the board for the Super Pro car and what throttle slop timer number I want to put in the delay box for the super classes. And that's all I have to think about. As long as I get the dial figured out, everything else is the same. So that's really what I go for is just uniformity in everything. And that just to sort of calm my mind a little bit and just let the the subconscious takeover, I guess you could say.
Obviously, you have both the equipment side and the driving side figured out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but 3 fling final round appearances in 2021, is that right?
That's right.
So the first was back in March at this Spring Fling Million event. That's in Vegas. And then followed up by a very impressive showing over at the Fall Fling that is in Bristol, securing final round appearances in both the Wednesday warm up as well as the 100K main event. So I know it's been a while ago now, but if you could, going back to that Spring Fling Million, can you think back? Can you put yourself in that state of mind that you were in during that race? I mean, specifically, what I'm kind of wanting to pick at here is it's the split round. I mean, what's going through your head when you're rolling in the lanes? This is the Spring Fling Million main event. We're rolling in the lanes for the split round. What's going through your head, man?
Honestly, at the point that we got to with the split round, I didn't know it was the split round. It just seemed like every time I came up to the starting line that day, like the guy that I was looking at in the lane next to me was not somebody that I wanted to be racing. Like I was running into really tough competition, like drivers that came from across the country, drivers that I know their names, and it's not like I randomly know their names. I know their names because they win races. So it just seemed like every single time I come up, I'm like, okay, keep your head down, just keep putting down the best lap that you can. And then we get down to the split round, which obviously I pull into the lanes. I didn't know it was going to be the split round, but they're like, there's 16 cars left or whatever it was. And I was like, holy crap, like we made the split. But it was really about just blocking everything out, because if you start getting wrapped up into the money, that's where your mind starts to go down to a bad place, and you start focusing on the wrong things. Like what I really wanted to keep focused on was my routine. What was the dial on the car going to be? What was I going to do if this happens? If it running through scenarios of how the race was going to play out as opposed to the stakes that you're racing for. And from the outside, like before I had ever made the split, and I went to a lot of $1 million races, cutting my teeth, paying my dues, watching other guys do this sort of thing. It always seemed like, how could you get to that point and not think about the money? Like that's all you're thinking about, because obviously it's the million. You go there for the money. But honestly, when you get down to that point, you've already done so many rounds of racing, and it was just easy to focus on the racing. It never really hit until I would say the final round, where we got up when we started talking about the split of that money, where it was like we were throwing around $10,000 and $20,000 like it was a $1 bill or a pair of dollar bills. That's when it was like, when we finally figured out the final numbers, it was like, holy crap, like we're racing for $20,000 in this final round. That was a little bit jarring, but then it was like, okay, snap your fingers, clap your hands, whatever you got to do. We're going racing. Like you want to win this round. Mm-hmm. And at that point, when you get to the final round of that kind of race, it really isn't about the money. So it's not like it hits you how much rate or money that you're actually racing for. So by the time you get to the final round, especially at that point, like you've had a good day, you're going to put a big number into the checking account, and that's a pretty good feeling. So at that point, it's like, Bo Butner even said it to me. He's like, dude, I could be racing for $1 right now. I don't care. I want to win this race. Me in the right frame of mind too. It's like, you know what? This is the round that everybody in the racing world wants to be in. You really want to turn on a win light right here. Like the money is, like I said before, that money's going to get spent. That's going to go away. But if you can turn on that win light, that's going to be like the memory. Like when you're on your deathbed, you can sit there and think about how you turned on that win light. And that's a really fulfilling feeling.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't get that feeling, but just to be in that round, to get that experience, like that's all that really mattered, was, that cementing your name in the history books. Not for me as the runner-up, but as the winner. That's really what it was all about by the time we got to that round. And, I learned a lot, especially in just one round of racing. And it's still an experience that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. So I'm super grateful for that.
So you runner-up to Bo Butner in the first $1 million event of the 2021 season. So I guess what did you do following that? Mostly just race locally, or and how did that go? I guess what kind of fill in the gap because I didn't hear much from you between then and the fall. What were you working on then?
Yeah, so we got home from the fling, and it was actually the very next race in the car that I got the runner up in. We broke the cam in our. So that was in first round in a super comp race. I got to the 1,000 foot and I started kicking the gas pedal and like boom. So that motor was done. And then it took a while to get a cam. It took a while to get parts back in. So that
Sure.
car really didn't come back out until pretty much pretty much August. I mean,
Sure.
it sat for a long time. And then even the other cars, like we were just, it seems like we broke everything we owned when we got home from the spring fling.
So just like bracket racing, highs and lows, you have one of the biggest weekends of your racing career. And then the grind starts right back up again. You're breaking everything that you can break, having all kinds of grief throughout most of the summer. Fast forward to the end of September, you roll into Bristol. It's the fall fling. And I'm sure this is probably, overshadowed quite a bit by the main event that happened later in the weekend. But what do you remember and what happened on the 15K warm-up race? Because I remember rolling into Bristol late at night on Wednesday, and Kris Whitfield's out there doing work. What happened? Tell me a little bit about that race, 15K warm-up.
Yeah, so I would say that the 15K race actually set me up for the 100K really nicely. Like it took a bunch of pressure off. But we got down to the split round on Thursday night for the 15K. And, we still weren't racing for a lot of money. So it was still like a mindset of we need to win some more rounds to kind of pay for the weekend. Like that's the goal when we go to these races is pay the tab. But we get down to the split round. I got a buy really late in the rounds, which ended up being a really lucrative buy. Like it set us up really nice. Obviously, didn't turn on the win light in the final, but it did put enough money in the bank to kind of go into the rest of the weekend. Like we're racing on house money. There's not a whole lot to worry about. Just go out and do our jobs. That sort of mindset. And that's kind of what we did. Like, I got crushed in the black car earlier in the rounds, and then the mindset kind of shifted over to like, okay, all it takes is one. That's all it takes to win one of these races is one good car, one good effort. And so I just put all of my focus into the red car, and it was very reminiscent the night of the 100K of everything that had happened on the night of the 15K. It's like I laid down a really good lap when I needed to. I got a little bit lucky when I needed to. And then it was just like round 7, round 8, round 9. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, we're in the final again. Like, this is crazy. And it was like, I'd get back to the trailer and my dad's just kind of smiling, shaking his head. Like, how is this even happening again? And that was sort of how I was too. I was like, the amount of things that have to line up just right to go that far in that sort of a race, like things really have to fall into place. So to see that happen twice in one weekend, it was like, I was just thanking my lucky stars. Mm-hmm. I was laying down good laps, not amazing laps, but really good laps when I needed to. And the pieces just fell into place. And it was like, you just wake up and it's like, holy crap, we're in the finals again. And this one, the second one was worth a lot more money. Right. So that was a great feeling.
That's awesome. So I guess, these races, these are marathon races, these big weekends, there's 4 straight days of racing. We're talking about racing late into the night on Wednesday, and you're the last pair of cars down the track. Fast forward, and we're racing Friday, I believe, is the main event, and you're the last pair down the track late at night. There's a lot of hours of just straight racing. How, I guess, for my own knowledge, how do you stay sharp for 3 or 4 straight days of racing? Like, don't you get tired? I mean, I'm watching you turn 003, 005. I'm like, he's killing it. He's killing it again. What's your strategy for trying to stay sharp on these long format races?
Well, it almost helps me because I think I mentioned earlier, like my personality type is to be a warrior. So I'm constantly thinking of, 1,000 different things all at once. But when I get worn out, my mind kind of slows down. And it's like, now I just need to focus on the important things at the right time. Like I don't have to worry about 1,000 things all the time. Just focus on what's right in front of you. So that helps a little bit. And then I'm also the type of racer, like, the more repetitions I get, the more laps down the racetrack I get, the better I get. And that showed it at the spring fling as well, because I was either in the final round or I was out by round two. Like, I actually need those laps throughout the day to kind of get into the zone. And it's like, as long as I can break through those first few rounds, and I might be 20 total, 25 total, 30 total, as long as I can get past those first few rounds, every lap after that, it goes from 25 total to 20 total to 18 total to 13 total to 8 total. Like, I'm just kind of whittling away at those numbers. And then, like, the energy of the people around the racing, the energy of the announcers, the energy of just the entire situation as a whole, like, I can just kind of go back on autopilot mode and just feed off of that. Like, it's not hard to have energy when you're staging
Right.
up for the final of a big race like that.
Right. The adrenaline is kicked in. We're ready to go. Yeah, I get you. I get you. But man, just for a second, I'm imagining, okay, if I'm Kris Whitfield, I'm in Kris Whitfield's shoes now. I'm going to roll up into the lanes. I've runnered up 2 fling events already this season, and I've been on kill all day long. At this point, I mean, what's your confidence level rolling into the water? You got Kyle Cotrera in the other lane. I mean, I guess, how confident were you? That had to feel so good going that many rounds, especially in one weekend at the premier event in our sport. That's got to be great for the confidence.
So I had to be careful on that round, because it was like, it was starting to get that feeling. Like, even on the second fling final of the year, it's like, okay, I lost the first one at the million. I need to even it out. I need to go 1 for 2. Like, and then I don't get that win light. And then it's just a night removed from that. And it's like, I'm in another final round. You're almost on this teetering point. Like, if I go 0 for 3, this is getting a bit ridiculous. I have to win this round. And I don't know if that might have, like, sapped away a little bit of confidence, but like, I kind of fell the wrong way. I almost went into, like, don't screw it up mode, as opposed to I need to crush this guy mode. And I'm not saying I backed down at all. I still crushed the tree. I still had a good light. I got just a little bit complacent at the finish line. I should have known that if I had a wheel on him, he was going to drop. And when he dropped, I saw it. I dropped as well. I just was already past the finish line when I locked up the brakes. And then to see the win light not come on for the 3rd time in 1 year, it's like there's a short list of guys that have won 2 spring flings. And now I'm like, okay, so I've been to 4 fling finals total, and I've got 1 win to show for it in 10 years of going to fling races. It's like, that's not a good final round record. It's great to get there, but aside from everything, even before the split, even when we were talking about, again, tens of thousands of dollars in the split of the 100K, it was just monopoly money. It didn't matter. Like, the amount of money that we're talking about was just, I didn't care. But when they took the trophy out of the tower and set it underneath the tower, and we drove by that's when I got butterflies.
Oh man.
Because I was like, I've missed that twice. I need that thing. Like, I want that trophy worse than anything, because, again, nobody remembers the guy that ran it up. But if you could win that many spring flings in 1 year, if you just win one, people remember that. And then I've got a trophy to show for it. That's something. So I wanted that stupid trophy. And then, like I said, I just kind of went into, don't screw this up mode. And it didn't work out. I still put up, a respectable lap. But, the final round is just as easily won or lost as first round, second round, third round, fourth round. It's just 2 guys going down a racetrack, flipping a coin and seeing who gets the win line.
Man, listening to you there, it's completely obvious to me. I mean, you're hard on yourself. Like, you're hard on yourself and saying all these things. It's like, everybody wants to be you except for the people that won, right? I mean, but like, I want to be Kris Whitfield too, because that's you got to give yourself a little bit of credit, because you went to the 3 final rounds in fling events. this season. Incredible, incredible performance. And I know that you have your sights set on one of those fling trophies. And I mean, we all do. And I'm so confident in saying that that's got to be right around the corner for you, man. But it's obvious, like I said, in the way that you speak, in the way that you think about your racing, that this is your true passion, and the amount of work and preparation that you put into your program is just, it's unparalleled. So speaking of preparation and training, I often see you heavily involved in the This is Bracket Racing Elite membership community, which of course is the sponsor of today's video. And I must say that enrollment is open right now, and that the doors to Elite, they only open twice per year, because the rest of the time they close the doors down. They don't let new people in because they are focused and dedicated on helping their community become the very best versions of themselves on the racetrack. So, Kris, can you talk a little bit about Elite, what maybe it's done for you and your racing program?
Right. So Elite for me has been a game changer. Like when we went to the racetrack when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I was learning a lot, but there was a lot that, I couldn't learn because the people around me couldn't teach me. Like I never really had the mentor that was especially skilled in execution or the game planning side of anything. Like my dad could teach me the nuts and bolts of drag racing. He could teach me the nuts and bolts of race cars. He can teach me how to literally build a car from ground up. But he couldn't teach me the nuts and bolts of holding, spot dropping, game planning this, game planning for that. And I never really had a mentor that, could kind of lead me down the correct path. It was always the mentality of like, show up to the racetrack, when you dial your car, you're going to dial what you think it's going to run, and then you're going to put up the best lap that you can. That doesn't work out very well. And it was even sort of a fight between me and my dad at the beginning when I was like, I first learned the concept of the math behind racing with the school by Scotty. That was like the first drag racing school that I got involved in that sort of taught me like this new side of holding numbers and this and that. And I did it for a couple years, and I was like, I kept losing over and over and over because I was holding and I was breaking out. And it almost turned into a fight between me and my dad. He was like, why do you keep doing this? And I was like, no, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm doing this for a reason. I just need to get better at it. And then came This is Bracket Racing Elite, where it was very hands-on, where Luke's very involved in the group. And then the community that This is Bracket Racing Elite provided, where it's not just Luke teaching, it's literally anybody can jump in and give their 2 cents and give different perspectives on, what to do in certain situations, how they approach this type of round, that sort of thing, that like really started giving me a wider view of ways to approach drag racing. And so just all the different viewpoints, the hands-on teaching, the communal aspect of all the learning, that was something that like you can't get anywhere else. And that's really where I started to think like I approached drag racing in a totally different way that I never could have before. Because you can't teach yourself to think a different way if you don't like I don't even know, like abstract thinking of drag racing. I couldn't do it. I had to have somebody show me, like almost put it in front of me what I needed to do. And that's where This is Bracket Racing came along and showed me, here's what to do, and also here's how to do it.
And, back before I was in Elite, I remember either watching a video of you or I was talking to you or something, and one thing that you told me is, what was it? In regards to racing, like, you don't know what you don't know, or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly word for word what you said, but that's exactly true about Elite. Like, going into Elite, like, I've raced a lot of years, I've had a lot of success, like, I feel like I know what I'm doing, right? But I didn't know what I didn't know, right? There's so much, the archives are so deep on Elite, and that membership community, that Facebook group, people are very, very supportive in there. And if you have a question, you just pop on there, and you got people like Kris Whitfield that are going to answer. And I mean, if you guys want to learn more about Kris and learn more from Kris, especially like when he starts talking about his race strategy and stuff like that, there are these live Q&A sessions within Elite. And Kris has been hosting them. They're focused on top bulb racing specifically when Kris is doing it. Kris, would you provide some details on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like that would be my forte. Like if you want to ask me a bottom up question, like that's what Justin Lamb is there for, right? I can't answer those sort of questions. But when it comes to the top bulb racing, um, I've really taken pride in like the mental approach that it takes to be what I would consider a solid drag racer. I would say that stemmed from that being my biggest struggle was the mental side of things, always being the worrier. I would get myself so worked up that I would actually lose focus on what I was trying to do. So I actually had to sit out and, read books. I had to listen to podcasts and things like that of like, how to slow your mind down, how to slow your breathing down, these techniques that a lot of times racers don't even, you wouldn't even know that you're doing it. You wouldn't even know that you're breathing differently from one round to the next, or that you're approaching a round differently from one round to the next, because you're subconsciously, like, your body is doing these things, and if you're not paying attention, that'll get you out of your game. That was very difficult for me in the beginning, so I had to go learn these strategies of how to get through that. And now that's something that I can share with other people through this group. And I don't broadcast it publicly because we have this as bracket racing as a tool to, as a conduit to get this information to people. And I view the people in This Is Bracket Racing Elite as my teammates. Like, I don't want this information to go to everybody. I want this to go to people that are equally as willing to help me. And as much as I put into This Is Bracket Racing Elite, I get right back out of it. Whether it's from Luke, whether it's from Justin, like you said, you put a question out into the open forum and you'll get 10 different answers, and all of them can be equally as valid. And then you get to take parts and pieces of those answers and take what works for you and implement that into your racing. And that's something that you, like I said, you just can't get that anywhere else.
Sure. Definitely worthwhile going to check it out. Like I said, the doors are open right now. It only happens twice per year. Go and check out This Is Bracket Racing Elite. Thank you so much to Elite for your support and for sponsoring this video. And definitely make sure you write down, when you go and sign up for Elite, write it down. Put in there GallStar and put in there Kris Whitfield sent you. We'd definitely appreciate that. And definitely go and check out Kris's live streams that he's doing over there on the Elite page if you have not done so yet. You guys, Kris, first of all, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. All kinds of awesome information. I appreciate it so much. Links to all of Kris's social media stuff will be down in the video description, as well as links to This Is Bracket Racing Elite. Thank you again so much to This Is Bracket Racing for making this video possible. Thank you, Kris, for being on the show. Go and give him a follow on all of the things. We're going to shut this one down. Thank you guys for watching. Kris, see you later.
Thanks, Tom.